Welcome to the module on the subjunctive mood. We moved away from participles as the first non-indicative mood that you've learned. Now this is the second non-indicative mood that you're going to learn. And like all non-indicative forms, one common element is that there is no augments in any of the tenses for the subjunctive. Besides having no augment, one key distinction for the subjunctive mood is the use of long connecting vowels. So far, you're used to connecting vowels that are short, like omicron and epsilon for the indicative mood. So these are the vowels used for the indicative mood. But the key feature for the subjunctive is that it does not use short vowels. Instead, it uses long vowels as its connecting vowel. It will not use the omicron epsilon. Instead, it will use the omega theta. And so what I try to do here is show you the suffix endings, the active suffix endings, and the middle passive suffix endings. These are the bare suffixes without the connecting vowels. And so you're used to memorizing them with the connecting vowels, o, ace, a, and eta, usi. But for the active suffixes, I've stripped those suffixes of its connecting vowel, and what you see here is o. That's what the suffix is for the first person singular, present, active, indicative, and instead of ace, you see is. Instead of a, you see I. Instead of amen, you see men. Instead of eta, you see te, and instead of usi, you see usi. And so these are the suffix endings you will use with subjunctive. But instead of the short vowels, you're not going to use any short vowels. You're going to instead use long ones. And you'll see what the form looks like when we use the long connecting vowels, omega and eta. How do you form the present active subjunctive? You take the present stem, whether it's the same stem for luo, whether it's active or middle or passive. So you take the present stem, and rather than the short connecting vowels, you use the long ones, and you attach the primary active suffixes. And I already showed you what the bare or stripped suffixes look like without the connecting vowels. And so just as a reminder, it's o, is, e, men, te, and usi. And what we're going to do now is take the stem, lu, and instead of the short vowels, you're adding the long ones. So if I add a long connecting vowel, your big 5-2 rules tell you that two like vowels combine to form one of them, and then we're going to add an eta here for these connecting vowels, and omega here, and eta here, and an omega here. Now, we're not done yet. We have, so the final form for the present active subjunctive for the first person singular is luo. And what happens, though, with the long eta connecting vowel is this iota wants a subscript. So the final form then is we have luo, which is I might be loosing, and then we have lu ace with the iota subscripting, you might be loosing. Remember that subjunctive is the mood of probability or possibility, so we're trying to translate that as best we can in English, and so we're going to use may or might. We have another iota that subscripts for this form, lu a. Luomen needs no adjustment. Luete needs no adjustment. And luoc, what happens is the omicron swallows up the upsilon, and the final form is luoc or sin. And so this is the primary active subjunctive. The endings are O, ace, a, omen, ate, osi, or sin. And let's say the entire paradigm, using the word luo together. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Luo, lues, lue, luomen, luete, luosi. And these are translated as I may or might be loosing, you may might or be loosing, he, she, it may might be loosing, etc. And that's the form for the present active subjunctive. The present middle passive subjunctive, again, follows the same formula as the indicative. The only difference is you don't use the short connecting vowels, you use the long ones. So let's see how this form works. Here's the indicative form. By comparison, I wrote this out. And so the subjunctive is lu, o, and we're going to add my, si, tai, metha, sithe, nintai. But again, we're not going to use the short vowels. We're going to use the long vowels. Lu, my, and I'm going to while this can be either middle or passive, we'll translate it for the sake of convenience passively. So it's I may be being loosed, or I might be being loosed. How do I say you might be being loosed? The second person singular. Well, I add the lu, and I add the eta connecting vowel, and then I add psi, but the sigma drops out. The eta swallows up. It swallows up the alpha because it's a long vowel, and the iota wants a subscript. So the final form is lu a iota subscript. Now, you've now seen lu a not just 2 times, but in the previous slide, 3 times. So this form lu a can be translated 3 different ways. It can be translated as the second person singular, present middle passive indicative, so you are being loosed. That's the indicative translation. It can be translated as the subjunctive, you might be being loosed. All right, that's the passive translation. Or it can be translated as the present active subjunctive. But this was a third person singular form in our previous slide. If you look at the previous slide, you have lu a here. This is the third person singular. So you can translate this as he, she, it may or might be loosing. So there's 3 translation possibilities for this one form lu a. I want you to be aware of that. Now, what is then the third person singular form? You take lu and add the connecting vowel eta, and add tai. It's luatai. He, she, it might be being loose. A passive translation. The first person plural is luometha. We may be being loosed. The third, second person plural is you aisthe. You all may be being loosed. And the third person plural is luontai. They may be being loosed. So let's say these forms together. This is the present middle passive subjunctive. Here are the passive translations. And we're going to say this form together. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Luomai, lue, luetai, luometha, luaste, luontai.